Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of Town Council for the Town of Petawawa to order for June 3rd, 2024. Welcome members of council, staff, and all of our special guests we have here this evening. I'll start this meeting off by reading the land acknowledgement. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Tonight we'll look at calls to action number 12. We call upon the federal, provincial, territorial, and Aboriginal governments to develop culturally appropriate early childhood educational programs for Aboriginal families. So much progress has been made with this call to action number 12. There was something called the Federal Pathway that was released in June of 2021, which commits to continue the progress towards an early learning and childcare system that meets the needs of Indigenous families wherever they live. This includes establishing before and after school programming for First Nations children on reserves, providing additional funding to expand access to culturally appropriate Aboriginal Head Start daycare programs and services, and repairing and renovating existing Indigenous early learning and childcare centers, as well as building and maintaining new centers. So we are working towards call to action number 12, but still much to be done. Okay, I'd ask everybody in attendance to please stand and join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Roots, that the agenda for June 3rd, 2024, regular meeting of council be adopted. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Are there any disclosures of any pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us this evening? Okay, next up we have some council meeting minutes of May 21st, 2024. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 21st, 2024 be approved as printed and circulated. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving right along. Tonight we have a Petawawa Police Services Board 2023 year-end report. I'd like to ask Councillor James Carmody, who's the chair of the Police Services Board, to head to the mic and give us his year in review. Will you introduce the rest of the board that you brought with us this evening?
I certainly will.
Okay.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of council, your worship. I'm James Carmody, the chair of the Petawawa Police Services Board, as you all know, and however you out in YouTube land may not know that. So that is why I am here to present the 2023 year-end report for the Petawawa Police Services Board. So the first thing I will do is introduce members of our board. In this picture, you will see on the left is Inspector Steph Neufeld, who is with us this evening. He's not a member of the board, however, he's the reason the board exists. And next to the inspector is Michelle Chapin, who is not with us this evening. Deputy Mayor Teresa Sabrin, who is seated right there. And Sharon Dainty, who is a provincial appointee on our board, and Sharon is right here. And Acting Staff Sergeant Sarah Darrow is next to Sharon in the photo, and she is not with us this evening. Ryan McFadden is another community appointee seated right behind me, and myself, Councillor James Carmody, as the chair. So the first thing we'll review is some of our goals that we had for 2023, the Police Services Board goals. And goal number 1 was to support the creation and implementation of an Upper Ottawa Valley OPP detachment area community safety and well-being plan. So we can, as you all know, that goal was achieved. Our plan has been approved. It is now in place and actively being used. Goal number 2 was to foster the concept of community partnership and ownership in maintaining a safe community. And this we do through a variety of techniques, but a lot of it being social media presence and the use of e-cop and just basically having a presence in the community, that making the police or the community aware of our policing initiatives. Goal number 3 was to establish an active educational program consistent with our vision, including public awareness campaigns regarding false 911 calls, legalization of recreational marijuana, distracted driving, seatbelt use, speeding, and impaired driving. So these are some of the regular things that police services address on a regular basis. Goal number 4 was to serve as a partner in the safety support network for children, youth, families, and seniors, with a focus on seniors regarding scams and frauds involving internet technology. And the OPP on a regular basis has an educational program which addresses things like this, in particular for the seniors, because they're sort of like vulnerable to this type of problem. Goal number 5 was to institute effective protocols which address violence against women. And this is a goal which is ongoing, and we are currently looking at new initiatives to address this goal. And so stay tuned, and we should see something in the very near future regarding this topic. Goal number 6 is to leverage technology to create operational efficiencies and expand the Petawawa Police Services Board's social media presence. So we have continuously been growing our presence online and getting more likes and more followers type of thing. And goal number 7 was to ensure appropriate and professional interactions and communications. So kind of a generic goal. It's something that you would expect of any police services board. Goal number 8, support the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP in the continuation of ride programs for the detachment area. So on a regular basis, every year we apply for and receive grant money to run ride programs throughout the community. And with a focus being on sort of like a Christmas or the holiday ride program season. Goal number 9 was to collaborate with the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP in the creation of a camp safe program for the detachment area, and that has been accomplished. So we have recently, oh no, I better not get ahead of myself. Speed awareness monitors. We purchased a couple of speed awareness monitors and installed them, one on Biesenthal Road and one on Laurentian Drive. And they have been very effective in slowing traffic in these areas. We used to have, and I say that based solely on the number of interactions that we have, or the feedback that we have from people who live in these areas. We used to get regular complaints about speeding in certain neighborhoods, well, in Laurentian and Biesenthal. And since we've installed these monitors, the number of complaints have dropped rapidly. So these units too, as everybody knows, are Black Cat units, and this is for the benefit of people at home, because certainly the people in this room know, but they are very small units that can easily be attached to a pole, and people driving by in a vehicle wouldn't even see it there. And so there's no indication to people that their speeds are being monitored, so they're going to be driving as they would normally drive. So you get a very accurate reflection of what the true speeds are. We've always had a good relationship with MAD Canada as well, and we support MAD through the we buy advertising space in their little magazine that they have, and we support them. And occasionally they will send out requests for money for something or another. And anyway, we support them whenever we can, whenever our budget allows, and we're always happy to collaborate with MAD Canada. And in this particular case, the partnership involved the installation of signs. So a couple of signs for safe roads, and you know, if you see a suspected impaired driver, call 911. And this is something that, for the benefit of those at home, if you see a suspected impaired driver on the road, just dial 911 and report it. The police are often catching up with the impaired drivers that have been called in by citizens that observe things. Accidental 911 calls were a pretty big problem for police forces, and there was legislation in place which required police forces to dedicate a substantial amount of resource to following up on false 911 calls, pocket dials, and that sort of thing. And, anyway, in the years since that has been fixed, the number of false 911 calls that we've been spending resources on has declined dramatically. The Petawawa PSB makes it a point to continuously update our policy manual to every meeting that we have. We always make it a point to review one policy and update that policy. So by the end of the year, we've gone through a substantial chunk of our policy manual just to keep things fresh and up to date. So our community safety and well-being plan. An Upper Ottawa Valley OPP detachment area-wide community safety and well-being plan was completed in 2023 on behalf of the town of Pembroke, the city of Pembroke, the town of Petawawa, the city of Pembroke, township of Laurentian Valley, town of Laurentian Hills, township of Head, Clara, and Mariah, and a portion of the township of Whitewater Region, and a portion of North Algoma Wilberforce Township. So Patrick Finnegan from Upstream Communications was hired to help create the plan. Patrick is a retired OPP officer. The Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan was completed and posted to the town's website in December of 2023. OPP detachment boards. So in 2019, the province came out with a new policing act called the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, which called for the dissolution of Section 10 boards and their replacement with detachment boards. So the old act had essentially three types of boards. There was the Section 31 board, which involved, let's say, a town like or a city of Ottawa. They have their own police force. And Section 31 of the Police Services Act completely identified their legislative obligations that they needed to follow to run that police service. Section 10 of the Police Services Act completely described the obligations of community that chose to hire or contract the OPP to provide their policing. And Section 5, I believe, of the Act was dedicated to communities which did not purposely contract hire the OPP, but rather receive their policing on an as-needed basis and were billed for it. Petawawa was a Section 10 board, and since the dissolution of Section 10 boards, they've been replaced with detachment area boards. Basically, what it amounted to was the amalgamation of Section 10 boards and Section 5 boards. Section 5 boards, people in those communities did not have public representation or governance at the police level. They did have, there was a certain degree of it, but not to the extent that Section 10 boards did. And the intent of the new legislation was to bring everybody to the table to provide more public oversight of policing in the province. So this is a slide which depicts the governance of policing in the province of Ontario. So you can see all things rest, or at the very top is the Solicitor General. And they are the ones that guide the OPP, who are responsible for policing a large portion of the province. Geographically, that is. Section 31 boards police a major portion of the province, population-wise. The OPP Commissioner and the OPP Governance Advisory Council report directly to the Solicitor General, and OPP detachment boards are up right here. They are linked between the OPP detachments and the OPP Advisory Council. So in June of 2021, the town of Petawawa submitted a proposal to our detachment area. There would be 3 separate detachment boards, one for Petawawa, one for Petawawa, and another representing all the rest of the Valley Road Hill. Is used to disseminate Upper Ottawa Valley OPP media releases, share relevant posts from the East Region OPP Facebook page, and share other relevant news from the municipality or ECOP, which would be of interest to Petawawa residents. So they're There are a lot of people who use this service. It's getting to a lot of sets of eyes out there in the community. ECOP is another electronic tool that we use to disseminate information, and it's used to disseminate police reports. If a shopkeeper comes out with a report on something that happened in the community, and it might get sent out on ECOP. So overdoses, they're a common problem these days in our society, and it's another instance where you can call 911. Oh, that was it. Yeah, that's our last slide. Okay, so that is the year-end presentation of the Petawawa PSB, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that anybody may have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carmody. And thanks to you and all of your members, Ryan, Michelle, Sharon, Deputy Mayor Sabrin. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I think that's everybody. But thanks for all the work you do at the Police Services Board. And I noticed number 6 on your goals was to expand your social media presence. So I think that's a good goal. I think there's not enough people in our community that really know what you do and how vital your role is in terms of the policing in our community. A good example is the community safety and well-being plan that you put out, and all of the other things you do, like the ride programs. I don't think a lot of people in our community realize that it's the Police Services Board that does all that work. So I think it's great that that's one of your goals, to get that out and yeah, toot your own horn. People need to know what you're doing on their behalf in terms of policing our community. I'll just do one point before I open it up. So the speed monitors, I think they're a great idea, both types. And I know I asked Colin Howard this before, but I've seen it in other communities where if you're passing one of those signs and you're doing the speed limit, then a little happy face will pop up. And I just think it's a really good motivational tool. When that happy face pops up, you feel really good about doing the speed limit. So I'm just wondering if we can program that happy face onto our speed monitors, and I think we can.
Currently, I think we say thank you, but I think we could have a happy face too.
It's all I ask. I don't ask for that. Okay, I'll open it up for questions from members of council. Councillor Don.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Where is the 911 response center that we would call from here? Where would that be at?
I'm going to say Smith Falls. It used to be in Smith Falls. Now it has changed locations, and the inspector will tell you where it's moved to.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity.
Here.
Further questions or comments on our year-end report, Police Service? Okay, seeing nothing else, thanks again, Councillor Carmody, for your report and for all of the members and all of the work that you've been doing. Okay. Next, we have the Upper Ottawa Valley Ontario Provincial Police 2023 year in review, and we have Inspector Steph Neufeld here, who's our detachment commander, and he's going to give us the actual OPP year-end report, which is a little different from the Police Services Board. And just before I turn the mic over to you, it's great to have you back in the area. We know you were away for a few months in North Grenville, Kemptville area. Is that correct? Good to have you back.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council, and guests, and PSB colleagues. Pardon me. Can I get a glass of water? Maybe before we start. Sorry. Yeah, it's a privilege to present on our year in review, and I've also included bits of our new strategic plan, which they are very much intermingled and fall in line with a lot of the. Thank you. Thank you, sir. With the goals and targets for the police service board, or Petawawa Detachment Board, as we have to start getting used to calling this now. It is my pleasure to present this report tonight, and I don't want to just reread this, but I do want to make sure that the message that any success that is achieved in the detachment over the course of the year, and there was a lot of it, is always, it's never one person that celebrates that. It's very much a team effort, which is not, I mean, people think the OPP, it's just uniform members. And when I often talk to people, and as we had a discussion tonight about the OPP comprises of lots of moving parts, and I never, I always caution people when they say, oh, well, I'm with the OPP. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm just a civilian. There's no just, oh, I'm a civilian. Oh, I'm a special. The OPP, if you think of it like in a wheel, there's a lot of spokes in that wheel, and every spoke has to be there or that wheel doesn't turn. So there's not, the OPP officers are not held in higher regard than anyone else in the organization. We all have a role to play, and we're very much a team. So any success attributed to events over the course of the year is very much a team effort. Part of the presentation tonight will incorporate our new strategic plan as put out by the commissioner, who I don't think is watching tonight, but if he is, hello, sir. And it focuses on 3 pillars: our people, our work, and our communities. For those of the police service board that would recall our previous one, 2021 to or 2020 to 2022, a lot of that unfortunately was hampered by COVID, which is what it is. This is a very similar roadmap, if you will, and that is going to guide how we are going to proceed over the next, year and a half. Again, centered around 3 pillars: our people, our work, and our communities, and what that looks like to us, and especially here locally. Starting with our people, again, talking about successes we've had, engaging with seniors, community outreach, youth, and youth in the community, as well as youth in our OPP. As I approach my 30th year in policing, I seem to think, like I said, geez, like, was I that young when I got on? And I remembered walking into the office and seeing all these guys in the office with gray hair, and they were all cranky, and I was like, yeah, that's you now, Steph. Like, really? I try to be in a good mood, but so one of our priority areas is obviously, and I always say, although all 3 pillars are equal, when we talk about our people, I always say that's one of our most important pillars, if not the most important pillar. And we talk about our members, and certainly, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but our wellness, because I have a wellness piece, we talk about making sure that our members are not only physically well, but mentally well, because if they're not in position to look after themselves, can I really expect them to look after the community? And the answer is no. They have to be mentally and physically well. What this picture is showing is I was one of the 4 detachment commanders in Eastern Ontario that were selected to instruct on people-centered leadership, which is a change in the way we are doing business amongst our leadership cadre. The selection process for these instructors was based on success within the detachment, commanders that were specifically identified as being people-centered in their approach, and I was very pleased to and proud to say that I was one of the selected ones. And what that entailed was teaching, instructing all of our, I will say, upcoming leaders, all of our staff sergeants in Eastern Ontario, as well as all of our sergeants, on what it means, and it focuses on the 13 psychosocial factors of health and safety in the workplace, which is a big fancy word for caring for your people, is really what it comes down to. There's 13 different categories, but it talks about, really, if I could simplify it, it's the little things. You know, when a member says, I need to take next Friday off because my wife is having surgery. Back in the day, it was like, yeah, or actually typically it was, no, you can't. But today, yeah, no problem. But then you know what? How about calling on a Saturday and say, hey, you know what? You don't need to respond, but I just hope everything went okay with the surgery. The little things, making sure that we care, making sure the members know that we care. We are invested in them. We are invested in their success. We are invested both in their physical well-being and mental well-being. Continuing with the wellness, we were very proud to host our very first wellness evening, and we had 2 guest speakers who were very graciously shared their own PTSD journey and what I wanted this specific evening to be about. Because in my 29 years, and I'll be the first one to say the OPP has not always done a great job of looking after its members, and I can attest to that personally, but we have come leaps and bounds from where we used to be. Yet I still see a lot of, I have PTSD, the OPP never helped me out. So I want to really get away from that narrative. And so this evening was all about PTG. Now, just from a hands here, who knows what, everybody knows what PTSD is. Who knows what PTG is? Just curious. Well, isn't that interesting? PTG is post-traumatic growth. And that's not Steph Neufeld that came up with that term. That is a study that has come out of Yale University. And the 2 guest speakers were celebrating PTG. And the study shows that, and I'm going to mess this up, but if an officer or anybody, military, firefighter, any emergency responder experiences a traumatic incident, there is a 50%, literally a fork in the road, whether you can have PTSD or PTG, where you know what, you've had a traumatic incident, you processed it, you dealt with it either through counseling, maybe you just dealt with it yourself, and you're stronger for it. So these individuals, and everybody's got a different journey, but individuals that have gone, a year, 5 years, 10 years, well, I have PTSD, we're trying to get away from that narrative and say, you know what? Yes, I've experienced, there's many individuals here who've experienced stuff in the military, but you know what? We've dealt with it and we're back better and stronger as a result of it. We're not caught in that spiral, if you will, that downward spiral of constant PTSD. So that's what this evening was about. It's the first of what I hope will be an annual event, and it was invited. We invited all OPP members, and I opened it up to not only UOV members but to the neighboring detachments, Renfrew and Kilo as well. So it's more of a Renfrew County event. Great success. Again, with our people talking about the resources that are available to us, we have a whole section in the OPP dedicated to officer wellness. That never existed before. Never existed before. Quite the opposite. There was, talking about my own journey, there was an incident where an OPP officer was killed. And as I'm standing there at the hospital covered in blood, they're like, "Are you ready to come back to work? Because there's calls." And I'm looking at this a deceased officer, looking back at the sergeant and saying, "Can I go home and wash the blood off of me, please?" But zero, and no fault of that sergeant, because that's how he was trained, and his sergeant before him and his sergeant before him. This is all they knew. The days of yelling, get out of the office, get on the road, go right to, we can't do that anymore. That's dinosaur ways of doing things. Bang on the table, yelling at officers. Those kids don't respond to that. They don't. They laugh in your face, in fact. If they're going out to do something, it's because they want to listen to you, they respect you, and they respect your authority. But the days of threatening officers, that's long gone. So part of that training that I was doing when I talked about the people-centered leadership, that's about motivating members as well, getting people to do their work, basically. Talking about the healthy workplace team, never before unprecedented amounts of supports available to our officers now, not only supporting the physical well-being, but also the mental well-being. We have OPP psychologists. These are actual doctors on the payroll. These are OPP employees. Mental health clinicians, not quite doctors. Again, limited resources as far as psychologists go. We have one per region, so there's about 4 or 5 in the province who will come to major events, obviously. Mental health clinicians, we have a lot more within the region. We are just getting one in line for Renfrew County. Care navigators, if you experience a workplace injury, there's a tremendous amount of paperwork that goes into dealing with WSIB and the OPP that has to be filed. And when you're out of the workplace dealing with your own issues, sometimes that's very overwhelming. So care navigators are individuals that literally, they help you navigate this process. Okay, give me your information. It's all confidential. They'll help you fill out the forms, submit what needs to be submitted, actually faxed, if you can still believe they're expecting faxes from our members. Peer support, that's just, anybody can be a peer supporter. I like to think that our members still look after one another. I know they do. I shouldn't say I like to think that. I know that for a fact. The chaplaincy program to support any members' religious needs, as well as we have great relationship with the garrison and the organizations that support them as well. So of course our work, which is our bread and butter, right? The work we do every day, from, you know, foot patrol in our community areas, speeding tickets, traffic complaints, right to our high risk tactical teams coming into the community. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but the ensuring the best possible policing services. This was a training session that I organized for our community members that I believe a few of us were there in regards to the implementation of the Community Policing and Safety Act, which they said they were going to launch it April 1st, which I literally thought was an April Fool's Day joke, but it was not. Which effectively dissolved the police service boards and created these detachment boards. Well, why did they get rid of the Police Services Act? Well, this was legislation from 1990. If you think back to when they wrote that, the world was a very different place. The internet didn't exist. We talk about our homeless issues. Vagrancy was a criminal code offense then. The internet didn't exist. Cell phones didn't exist. There's a lot of language in that Police Services Act that absolutely needed to be updated. The big one that I like is the fact that there is now legislation that allows police services to suspend members without pay. And you think, well, why is that a priority? Well, unfortunately, because we do see a lot of instances, we do see instances where officers that are accused of very egregious offenses, that at least there's an option now that they can be suspended without pay, which I think is certainly from any leadership perspective welcome. That's one of the incidents. There's probably an extra 150 sections more than the Police Services Act, so there's a lot of verbiage. This training session, they did offer a training down in Toronto for anybody that wanted to attend in February of all times, which nobody from Renfrew County did. So seeing that, I said, you know what, I said, I'm going to see if we can get our local representative, which is him at the front of the class, to come up and actually that might be you up at the front of the class there. James, is that you? Right at the very front of the class?
Yes.
Keener. Very well attended, lots of, just to give it a more local perspective as opposed to sitting in a huge boardroom in Toronto, right? I think it was a lot of knowledge passed on. What I'm happy to say is certainly from a local perspective, the police service board here, the former police service board, is very well established, very smooth running, and the transition from police service board to detachment board was, I would say, seamless. Other communities are not that fortunate. Talking about our work, this is the big one, right? The billable calls for service for the community. Cash is king, as I say. The good news is overall, not huge changes. The crime does fluctuate up and down when I do my monthly report or my quarterly reports on the billable calls for service. How that works is when I present to the detachment boards is I certainly look for any spikes in calls for service. If all of a sudden there is a spike, we see from the previous year, break and enters went up, 10, 20, 30%. Well, why is that? I don't just present the numbers. Here's what happened. I do my own due diligence and explore why are things the way they are. And sometimes there is no explanation. Sometimes numbers are random. Sometimes there's a very simple answer. We saw, for example, during COVID, we saw family disputes, neighbor disputes, noise complaints, suspicious persons, suspicious vehicle calls for service go through the roof. And the question is, well, why? Why did noise complaints suddenly go up? Why are neighbor disputes? Well, the answer very simply is because all these people that were not going to work anymore and working from home, all of a sudden, geez, I didn't realize I never played the drums for 3 hours a day because I was at work. And that's kind of bothering me now. And so on and so forth. So as we are now coming a couple of years out of COVID, we're starting to see those numbers start to regulate as we expected. But those are the numbers. At the end of the day, what I'm very proud to say is that the town of Petawawa continues to be one of the safest, if not the safest. I don't want to jinx anything, but we are sitting pretty good. 2023 saw the launch of our victim specialist position. This is her name is Jackie Pearson, wonderful young lady, very ambitious. The recommendations that came out in 2022 from the CKW inquest as a result of the Barutsky femicide, one of the recommendations was lack of resources for victims in rural areas, in particular Renfrew County. 86 recommendations in total, not all directed at the police, but a certain amount that I certainly did my due diligence and said, okay, well, what can we be doing differently, better, more of, less of? And on that one, I looked into what the resources the OPP had. So Jackie is an OPP employee. She's a civilian OPP employee who was not slated to come to Upper Ottawa Valley. They were sending her somewhere else. So I pulled a few strings and shook a couple trees and said, this is a resource that we could really use in Upper Ottawa Valley. If you think about the our domestic violence, our intimate partner violence, our sex assaults, the numbers that we have in Upper Ottawa Valley would support that position. So I was very happy to say that a couple of decision notes that had to go right to the deputy commissioner's office were supported. And I won't say which detachment I stole her from, but she is now housed here in Upper Ottawa Valley. And this is an amazing source of support for any victim, not just IPV or sex assaults. This is a real coup for the Upper Ottawa Valley to have this, where we can ensure that if I am investigating, as sometimes sex assaults do, where there are multiple victims, certainly I can't sit here and say that, yes, I can assure you that every single investigation I ever did, I made sure the victims were all aware of every support that they need, every support that was available for the victim. I made sure they had that. I can't sit here and say that. That is now being taken care of by the victim specialist. So if I get a case, I link her in, here's the victims, make sure that they are supported. What that is her only role, is supporting victims of crime in Upper Ottawa Valley. Continuing with our work, our collision reporting center. This is Constable Yarmel, who looks after minor motor vehicle collisions. So traditionally, you're on the boulevard, you're stopped and somebody bumps into your bumper. Oh, geez, you know what? Now we got to sit here and pull over and wait for a cop to show up. Be 30 minutes, could be an hour. Now we can just go right to the detachment. Doesn't even have to be day of, as long as both parties are in agreement. Yes, we will both go, we'll report it. This is now taking work off of the front line where they don't have to, where A, it's more beneficial for the public. B, it's more beneficial for the members that can be doing whatever. The initial launch saw a significant increase. Just as word of mouth gets out about the collision reporting center, they're big in the cities, which see a lot of these smaller motor vehicle collisions. We are just launching that here, but it has been a complete success. This is Constable Prue from our mobile crisis response team. So when I initially applied for this role, this was still not in existence when I applied. And part of my application to the detachment commanding role was I said, I will make it my mission to bring this to the Upper Ottawa Valley detachment. Huge partnership with PRH, riding with mental health clinicians or sometimes nurses. And this was initially started to target what we refer to as our prolific callers. So we have individuals that we'll call the OPP 100, 150, 200 times a year. When I go back to that slide, those billable calls for service, yeah, that's a call that costs the community every single time we go. And every Friday night, we get the same individual calling. We attend there, and it's a two-person call. So that's two people, two officers off the road now, going, taking the individual, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes in handcuffs, depending on the call for service, bring them to the hospital. We move to the front of the line. Everybody sees, oh, there's Steph Neufeld in handcuffs. I wonder what he did, furthering the stigma of mental health. To sit there for an hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes 6 hours. For the doctor to come in, do you want to kill yourself, Steph? No, take them home. And then the officers drive that individual home. Now, my question is always, what has that solved? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. That has done absolutely nothing. Every interaction like that, and I'm not talking 20 years ago. This was in 2017. 20 is when this was launched. So we're not talking ancient history here. That was a very typical mental health apprehension. So this was specifically brought in to reduce this, to absolutely reduce this, to instead of waiting for Friday night, hey, let's reach out to this person on a Wednesday. Say, hey, how are you doing? I noticed you call a lot on Friday, so we're going to reach out to you today. Are you taking your meds? Can we bring you to the doctors? And we saw a drastic decline in our prolific callers. We launched in January of 2020, huge fanfare, press release. It was amazing. And then March COVID hit. Everything got shut down again. So it took a year to get it back up and running. The call volume, I mean, if we thought people had issues before COVID, well, they definitely had them afterwards. So we are seeing the workload was such that we added a second officer. So we have 7-day-a-week coverage, not 24-hour coverage, nor is that necessary. And I'll qualify that. There is 24-hour coverage because there's a paging service that we can get the clinicians to come out, but they are 7-day-a-week coverage. And I'll be honest, I could have 2 more officers in that unit in a heartbeat. And well, I might see it, I might not, depending. Continuing with our work, our UOB fraud investigator. When I do my one-on-ones with all the members, am I on a timeline, sir? I don't want to, if I need to speed things up or anything.
No, you're doing fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to hear everything you're saying.
All right. I do one-on-ones with every member in the detachment annually. Again, that people-centered leadership, I give them the opportunity just to have a little FaceTime. How are things going? I've had meetings that lasted 30 seconds. I've had meetings that have lasted 2 hours. I always appreciate their feedback. Is there anything I should be doing more of, less of? If you and I switched roles and Adam is the detachment commander tomorrow, what's the first thing Adam's doing as detachment commander? Whatever, I appreciate that feedback. What can I do to make your job easier? And the answer is, can you get rid of these stupid little frauds that we have? I'm like, really? And I always thought it would be domestic related, something like on that line, or sex assault. They're like, no, these stupid little frauds that we get. Like, oh, I bought a Rolex for $1,000 Rolex on Facebook Marketplace, and it turns out it was fake. And I want my $50 back. Well, really? Like, are you like, it's a victim of crime, it's a billable call for service. And we, believe it or not, stuff like that is very, very time consuming for the officers. So this is a situation where I have an officer who has actually had some training in that area and has now started up a unit. The problem is there was so much work for her that she's completely overwhelmed, and she's still dealing with 2022 calls to the point that we are now going to have to expand to put another officer in there. There's that much volume of calls. Again, COVID has changed the dynamics of the way criminals operate, the way they prey on our vulnerable community members, and the work is there, unfortunately. So the traffic stops for 2023 and tickets 2023, you will see that is comparing the year before. Yeah, significant decrease, 35% drop in traffic stops. Almost a perfect correlation resulted in 32% less tickets. So that is not, that was one of our issues that I certainly said, well, 2024, we're going to have to improve that. If we cannot, we used to have a full-time traffic officer, which once we're getting some bodies coming in over the summer, once we are through the summer, I'm going to be bringing that back, because I don't know if it's just a lack of effort on our members or if they're just so busy they don't have time. But what I do know is that every community has traffic issues. And what we're going to be doing is bringing back a full-time traffic officer to mitigate these issues as much as possible. And I fully anticipate we're going to see those numbers self-correct. Either probably within 3 months, 3 to 6 months, we'll see those numbers mount. They're not alarming. There's other detachments that are in similar boats. I will draw your attention up to the very top to little town of Bancroft, 140% increase in traffic stops, and again, almost a perfect correlation resulted in 135% increase in tickets. And thinking, well, geez, how the hell did they do that? What's that detachment commander doing so great? Well, the answer is nothing, but they were piloting a new staffing model. The OPP has always been great at handing the community a bill saying, hey, here's all the calls we did. There's what you owe us. One thing the OPP has never done, which I give full credit to the commissioner, I really hope he's listening now. We have never said, okay, well, here's the call volume for Up Ottawa Valley. Do we have enough officers for the volume that we're doing? Like, what sort of stuff does UOV have that other detachments might not have? Well, we have the park that we have to deal with. We have the Trans-Canada Highway. We have the garrison. We have the river. We have, multiple things that lots of other communities don't have. And what they identified was that, yeah, we are basing our staffing numbers on numbers that have been in existence for, and they're clearly outdated. For the call volume that, our staffing numbers used to have, that number needs to go up. And that is, so they did that across the province. And they said, well, let's pilot it and let's start in Bancroft, which really upset me because I said, I thought we were going to be the pilot, but regardless, we were not. And they started in Bancroft, and just having extra bodies, look what you can do with traffic, right? Which is I mean, numbers can be manipulated a lot of different ways, but certainly 140% increase in traffic stops. Yeah, well, that guarantee that's going to mean your tickets are going to go up. Just having the bodies to dedicate to full-time traffic. I'm told from very high up that we are next on the list to be on the staffing model, so stay tuned. The last pillar is certainly our communities, which we want to make sure that we are engaged as much as we can be with our communities, because really, when we talk about our communities, that is not just people that we police, as I do the air quotes, that is community members that we live with, work with, are on communities outside of policing. I certainly encourage our officers to be very engaged with our youth, with our communities, with our Indigenous communities, seniors, volunteers for various events, charity events. On the recruiting piece at Algonquin, making sure that we are supporting, making sure that we are engaging with youth and marketing the OPP, certainly policing and the OPP as a viable career option. Certainly, we get a lot of negative press from the US, especially after the George Floyd incident and the whole defund the police, which was just a knee-jerk reaction to groups saying we should punish the police officers, which I certainly had to address in several meetings about what does that mean, defund the police. Well, the first thing that they will always cut is training. And my question to anybody that always says we should defund the police, I don't dispute that social agencies should be funded more. I 100% agree with that. But when you talk about defunding the police and having a less trained officer come to deal with your crisis, is that really something you want? If anything, we should be spending more money on training to make sure that we have the most trained possible person coming to address whatever your crisis is. Okay. That concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for your continued support, and it is certainly a privilege to continue on as the detachment commander here. We have a great detachment supported by great PSB. Detachment board, geez, I've got to get used to saying. Detachment board group, and thank you very much for your continued support. And the floor is open if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Inspector Neufeld. And if you did go overtime, you would have heard the Oscar music playing, which would have been the signal that the hook would have come out. But thanks to you and to all of your team here at the detachment for all that you do for our community and keeping us safe. It's a tough job. It's a difficult job. And in these times, it's a complicated job as well. So thank you again for all that you do. And I know that you mentioned we're still one of the safest communities. I know a couple of years ago we were #2 safest in all of Canada. And don't tell me if we're less than #2. Only tell me if we're #1.
I thought we were #1 because I think LaSalle played with their numbers a little bit. I'm going to say we were #1.
So maybe someday soon we might get an updated report on where we stand in the nation in terms of safe. But I think all of us know that all of us that live here in Petawawa know it's a very safe community, and you and your detachment are a big part of that. So thanks for that.
Thanks.
And it's great to see. I did learn something today. PTG means post-traumatic growth.
Yes.
So it's good to see that that's part of the police force these days. And some of the other key things that you spoke about, your healthy workplace team that's in place to support your officers and ensure that they're in a good frame of mind and a healthy state to go and do their job. It's great to see that victim specialist here in Renfrew County, collision report center, fraud investigator, and I think the big one is that mobile crisis response team.
Oh, yes.
And as you said, it's been a game changer in terms of reducing the mental health calls.
Yeah.
Actually going out and showing them before something happens that, we care about you and trying to hit the problem before it becomes a problem. So I think all of those are key initiatives, and it's all combined going to make Petawawa a safer place to live.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll open it up for questions or comments from other members of council. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Steph, I just want to say thank you very much. I mean, I do know that your department does very, very good work here. And when you don't hear any complaints about the police officers, obviously they're doing a pretty good job, because usually that's the first source that people like to complain about. One question with the report, I think I might have asked this before, but just looking for clarification. There's for billable hours, operational and operational 2. Just wondering what the differential is between the two of them.
So just different categories as far as that's a billable summary. They have a detailed report which goes through every single call. For example, violent crime is that's going to be your assaults. Well, starts with murders, your assault. So it's a whole gamut, but that's all summarized as violent crime. Operational 1 will be suspicious persons, noise complaints, assist fire department. Operational 2 will be mental health calls. Yeah, I can give you the exact breakdown if you are curious, and actually that'll be on the last police service board, detachment board package, where I do the I present the summary, and then I go into the detail, which is part of my reporting back. Is like when they say, okay, well, what happened to why are noise complaints so high? And then I go in and say, okay, well, I can attribute that to out of the 15 calls, 10 of them were at the same residence. And then that's a discussion with the board. Well, maybe we should, instead of calling the police for 10 times and billing the municipality, maybe that's something that the bylaw can get more engaged in, rather than calling us, have the bylaw more engaged and see if we can't reduce it that way. And usually those things self-correct.
Deputy Mayor Savin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steph, I remember a couple of years back when you presented to us your goal of having the mobile crisis response team and the victim specialist, and how you were going to work towards that. I think that's one of the most important, truly amazing evolutions that has taken place in our communities, because it's a people first approach, and it's dealing with the most vulnerable people in the most vulnerable times. And I think when we get that right from a prevention perspective, I think we score 100%. And so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, so again, thank you very much for coming and giving us your full report, and extend our thanks from myself and the council and the town of Petawawa, really, to all of your detachment for everything they do to keep our community safe, and maybe possibly #1 safe community in Canada.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we're gonna go to bylaws, but we'll give the detachment board and the inspector a chance to sneak up there. Okay, next up we have bylaws. Bylaw 1664-24 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 1597/23, being a bylaw to regulate and govern the operation of all-terrain, multi-purpose, and recreational off-road vehicles on highways under the jurisdiction of the Corporation of Town of Petawawa. I need a motion for first and second reading of the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Roots. That bylaw, I guess I did it again, didn't I? I read the whole thing and now I gotta read it again. That bylaw 1664/24, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 1597/23, being a bylaw to regulate and govern the operation of all-terrain, multi-purpose, and recreational off-road vehicles on highways under the jurisdiction of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1664/24, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 1597/23, being a bylaw to regulate and govern the operation of all-terrain, multi-purpose and recreational off-road vehicles on highways under the jurisdiction of the corporation of the town of Petawawa. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1664-24.
I need a motion for third and final reading of the bylaw 1664/24. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1664/24 be read a third and final time and passed. Are there any questions, comments on the bylaw? Councillor Coutu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give some kudos again to staff for their excellent response to this community initiative. I think it's awesome that we do that for our community, that we hear something that they're interested in having done, that we direct staff to prepare a feasibility study, that we give appropriate resources, and then we come back and we make a decision about how to proceed. So I'm super encouraged and proud of this process. I raise my hand as a no, just for the reasons I've already spoken about. I'm super proud of the original bylaw, 1597-23. I really love that we opened up west of the highway and all those access points. I just maintain my concerns about vulnerable pedestrians in these areas and our liability as far as the road conditions. But again, I think ATVing is a great sport. I love that the Algonquin Trail's there now. I think it's wonderful that we're going to be drawing tourists in. So that's just to explain why I'm raising my hand as a no. But again, I really think Public Works did an amazing job. And I really am glad that the improvements to the bylaw have some enforceability to it. That was a really great upgrade. So thank you.
And I guess for those who are watching at home, if they weren't here for the original discussion of this bylaw, it was about opening up the east side of the Petawawa Boulevard from Golf Course Road all the way to Silky Drive to allow residents to travel on their ATV from their residence to the Algonquin Trail. Okay, with all of that said, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried.
Operation of the town of Petawawa, bylaw 1664-24, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 1597-23, being a bylaw to regulate and govern the operation of all-terrain, multi-purpose and recreational off-road vehicles on highways under the jurisdiction of the corporation of the town of Petawawa. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1664-24, this third day of June 2024.
Next, we have bylaw 1665/24, being a bylaw to establish a highway, and this is concerning Canadian Forces Drive and Town Center Boulevard. I need a motion for first and second reading of the bylaw. Moved by Councillor Coutu. Seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that bylaw 1665/24, being a bylaw to establish a highway, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the town of Petawawa, bylaw 1665-24, being a bylaw to establish a highway. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1665-24.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1665/24. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that bylaw 1665/24 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions, concerns about the bylaw? I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the town of Petawawa, bylaw 1665-24, being a bylaw to establish a highway. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1665-24, this third day of June 2024.
We have no correspondence, so I'll go to the minutes. We have the minutes from the council and committee meeting of May 27, 2024. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held on May 27th, 2024 be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have minutes from the Petawawa Public Library Board meeting of April 22nd, 2024. I need a motion to accept the minutes. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the minutes of the Petawawa Public Library Board meeting held on April 22nd, 2024 be adopted as information. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you for your service. So these minutes are from our meeting held on April 22nd of this year. And you can see by the minutes that we welcomed a new member to the board at this meeting, Carly Rigier. And we also had our yearly audited report from Tammy Sylvester from Welsh LLP, who does our auditing. And again, there were no issues at all. Everything was in good order at the library, which is in no small part due to a wonderful CEO and a very capable bookkeeper that we had on staff. So everything is financially in good shape. And there was nothing else really of any consequence. A little bit of business about painting the library, which we're looking at doing, but that's regular housekeeping. So I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions on the library board minutes? I just have a question. Did you find a new bookkeeper? Did you hire a new bookkeeper?
Yes, we did.
Good to hear. And I also noticed that you're heading into another strategic plan.
I will discuss that in my council reports.
Excellent. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting minutes from April 24th, 2024. I need a motion to accept the minutes. Moved by Councillor Coutu. Seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the minutes of the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting held on April 24th, 2024 be adopted as information. Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although this was a short meeting, it was the night we had that hailstorm. So we had a few of our presenters cancel and some didn't show due to scheduling issues. So you'll see a list of people who didn't actually come to the meeting, but we got to meet them later on a different meeting. So I'll just give you the update that at this meeting, we approved the budget for Pride. We set some things in motion as far as that event. So it's going to be bigger and better than ever before. We only have to beat last year. So we'll have a photo booth and a lot more opportunities for people to share on social media and make it more of a happening. And then the same old amazing pizza and a lot of partners coming to support and a lot more sponsors from the community. So this is a very Pride focused meeting. But you'll see on their legacy of hope, and I just wanted to clarify something I noticed on the minutes. The letter to offset costs for damages, that's being provided by the garrison. So it has nothing to do with the town. The garrison, through their own insuring of themselves, they're going to guarantee the exhibit for the time that it's in their building. So to put everyone's mind at ease. To update too, our logo contest, it actually closes tonight. So around midnight, I'm guessing we'll shut the door on submissions. So if anyone out there is still holding on to their logo contest submission, please put it in today. And we're looking forward to reviewing those. Further on, we are still in the process of reviewing on the community survey. We had a lot of rich information come in from that survey. So we're taking a lot of time as a committee to review it and to put it into some perspective in some meaningful way to present to both council and then to turn around and present it back to the community and use that to ground a lot of our initiatives going forward. So please continue to stay tuned on that. And another thing we reviewed during this meeting, we had the opportunity as a town to send some of our frontline staff to be trained at Bernadette McCann House in how to respond to and recognize situations of intimate partner violence and also protect themselves and their mental health when it comes to being traumatized secondhand, et cetera, and dealing with that kind of difficult interaction. So that's something that's been offered to us. I believe Scott and Jody in there looking at how that can fit into the existing staff training plans. But there's also the opportunity for all of our community partners to take part in this training. So I've been getting the word out to a lot of the service organizations in our community, and I'm hopeful that we'll have an even better trained frontline staff across this town. But we are still also as a committee working towards an initiative to propose to council to help us help those residents in the community who are being affected by this. And then finally, something that we're working on is a consultation policy and those types of grounding documents, territorial acknowledgements, et cetera. And we have a lot of examples because we're not blazing a trail here. There's a lot of communities that have done this work before. So we're reviewing examples from Ottawa, from BC, and we're going to be taking a thoughtful approach and taking input from our partners. So stay tuned. We're hoping to bring something to council soon that can help us articulate and ground the consultation reconciliation work that we do going forward. So that's the summary of the meeting, and I'm really happy to take any questions if they have pop up.
Thank you, Councillor Coutu. Any questions or comments on the meeting minutes of PDI? Okay, and then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next up, we have a staff report, PW-19-2024, award of tender PW-07-2024, one articulated four-wheel drive front end loader. We have Chris and Teddy here to give us a report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for having me, members of council. I'd like to begin with some background on the report PW-19-2024. This tender was prepared and advertised in a local newspaper as well on the town's website. 8 firms requested tender packages and 4 firms submitted complete tender packages on the closing date of May 7th, 2024 at 10 a.m. A total of 7 bids were received. Of the 7 bids, 3 did not meet the tender specifications, were not considered. These bids are marked with 2 asterisks in your provided reports. Staff compared the 2 lowest bids, Wajax bid 2 and the JR Brisson, Hitachi and Case respectively. Staff, not just myself, but all the staff helped with this report, including our road supervisor, Peter, our lead hand, Rob, and our mechanic, Andrew, as well as all of our full-time operators field tested both of these loaders. And there was an overwhelming unison among the group that the JR Brisson for the purchase of the 621G would be, we'd ask for it to be accepted. This wouldn't be the town of Petawawa's first purchase of a case. We already have a case back that was purchased in 2023. The staff is satisfied with both the performance of the machine and the customer service they've provided so far. Having both pieces of equipment, the backhoe and the loader of the same brand, would allow Public Works to cut down on service calls and warranty work charges by means of having one service representative on site to work on both pieces of equipment. Safety is also a high concern within the Public Works Department, and visibility while operating machinery is something we continue to try to improve for our operators and for the public. Case offers the greatest visibility of either one-piece rounded windshield. Right now, Case is the only loader on the market that offers a one-piece fully rounded front windshield. This windshield allows for greater visibility on all sides while operating. Also, they have an optimally placed rear view camera that allows improved operator awareness and confidence. While considering performance and comparing Case to Hitachi, Case tops Hitachi in 3 pivotal areas when considering loaders. Case has a higher straight tipping load, a higher tipping load at 40 degrees, and a substantially higher bucket breakout force. Both tipping load and tipping load at 40 degrees reflect safety while operating, while bucket breakout reiterates performance. A purchase of this considerable value demands proper longevity from the product, which has already been proven from the town's first Case purchase of a backhoe in 1993. This backhoe was in service and relied upon heavily for 27 years until 2021, when the town received a $25,000 trade-in value while purchasing a new backhoe, which is substantial for a backhoe that old. As part of the 2024 budget process, the existing loader was deemed surplus, and the provision for the purchase of a new loader was included in the budget in the amount of $250,000, with $200,000 to be funded through taxation and $50,000 to be funded through revenue received from the sale of the loader. Thank you. Yeah, and the recommendation. In closing, the staff is seeking the council approves the award of tender PW07 to 2024 for one articulated four-wheel drive front end loader to JR Brisson Equipment in the amount of $269,474 plus HST. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay, just before I open it up for questions, was this Teddy's first report delivered to council?
Yes, very happy to have Teddy here tonight. He's done a fantastic job on this tender. It's his first equipment tender that he's written from start to finish, with a little bit of guidance from me and some help from Don Rakowski as well. He's done a fantastic job. And what I really liked was the work he did with bringing loaders to the yard, and having the suppliers bring the equipment, let the staff try them, let the staff have feedback of which piece of equipment they feel is going to be best for themselves operating, but also for the work we do in serving the town residents. So I think Teddy's done a fantastic job. I certainly support the recommendation that he's brought tonight.
Well, congratulations, Teddy. You nailed it. Nobody saw that little nudge at the end. And it's good to hear that when we're spending $250,000 on a loader that we test drive. That's great to hear. I'm just disappointed I wasn't called to test drive the loader myself. Okay, we'll open it up for questions. Deputy Mayor Stafford.
Not a question, but a comment, Teddy, that has to have been the most thorough report I think that I have ever had the privilege of listening to. So I would just like to issue that challenge to Chris to continue the tradition that's been started. Thank you very much.
Hope that wasn't a shock, but it sounded like one. Further questions or comments? Councillor Driscoll.
Yeah, I'd just like to say you've obviously done well over your due diligence on this, and your hard work shows that in your staff report for sure, and I'll definitely be supporting. Thanks.
Further questions? Councillor Coutu.
Just to say, I really appreciate all the mention of safety, and also the longevity. It is a huge price tag. So like, this is everything I need to know, and I'm super confident to motion this. Thank you.
Further comments, questions? And I think it's great that you involve so many of the team. It just wasn't one or two people that made the choice, but everybody got a chance to put their input in there. Just a quick question. You talked about tipping loads and bucket breakouts. That's all new to me. Could you just fill me in on what that means?
So a tipping load is the maximum capacity your front bucket can have. And a strict tipping load is when your loader is straight and a maximum turning degree is 40. So that's the two weights that are provided. I have them here in the report. And then our bucket breakout force is how much actual weight your bucket will create when you're digging into a pile per se of fill. So Case had the best of the two lowest bids. That's what we decided. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that info. I feel like I'm almost ready to drive one now, except for the license. And maybe you might need some kind of license. Okay, if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Roots. The council approved the award of tender PW-07-2024 for one articulated four-wheel drive front-end loader to JR Brisson Equipment in the amount of $269,474 plus HST. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. When do we expect to get delivery?
And I believe it's the end of August, early September.
Oh, that's not too bad. So you can get a front end loader faster than you can buy a new car.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Chris and Teddy.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Next, we'll go to councillor reports. Deputy Mayor Samry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In addition to my regular responsibilities such as attendance at the EDI committee meetings, this past month I participated in my first police services detachment board meeting, and it's a very good group of people, and I'm going to be looking very forward to the efforts that we'll put in for the positive outcomes for our community. I also attended the Small Urban Municipalities Conference, the 1st to the 3rd of May. what is really great about that particular conference is it's municipalities that are not much bigger than about 75,000 people. So very much people who deal with the same types of issues that we do. We're not talking about, Toronto conferences, Toronto issues. We're talking about rural and urban communities. So that was really well attended. I represented yourself at the May Day gathering that hosted approximately 450 early childhood educators on the ICE services, the Petawawa Civic Center. An absolutely amazing day. I walked in and I immediately felt these are my people. It's where I started my career. And the facilitator talked about the importance of co-regulation and in dealing with children with big behaviors and big emotions and things like that. But it's definitely something that we can apply to every aspect of our lives. So really was grateful, Mr. Mayor, for that opportunity. And finally, I represented yourself at the accessibility flag raising, and I'm sure that Councillor Donovan will speak more to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carmen.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So on May 15th, I chaired a Police Services Detachment Board meeting. And on May 27th, I chaired a Petawawa Public Library Board meeting. And earlier you mentioned, or you inquired about a strategic plan at the library. So we have got this well underway. We have hired TCI Management Group to assist us with the creation of this strategic plan. So I'm a member of the steering committee for that for this strategic plan, and I attended a number of meetings of that steering committee on the 9th, the 22nd, and the 29th of May, and we have another one tomorrow. So that is progressing nicely. Just as a kind of a pre-awareness, we will be having a couple of surveys issued, or so there'll be surveys for the public and surveys for staff and surveys for no, I think that's it. But council members will definitely be interviewed as part of the process, so you can expect that to be coming your way at some point. They'll probably be in the form of Zoom meetings or that sort of thing, so nothing too disruptive. And of course, on the 30th, I attended a luncheon for Karen Cronier, who has recently retired, and the deputy mayor forgot to include that one in her report because she was here as well. And on the 1st, I attended the Pride flag raising ceremony at the Container Market. That was a very nice little ceremony, well done. And today I attended the opening of, or the grand opening of the Law and Order's location on Victoria Street here. And one last thing I would like to mention, this is not something that has happened, but it's something that's about to happen, and it is Library Discovery Day. So I don't know if this will, probably won't show up for anybody to see it, eh?
Sorry.
Oh, well. So Library Discovery Day is on June 8th. That's this coming Saturday. Come to the library at 11:30 a.m. and in the fireplace area, join us at the library for tea and coffee while we celebrate Library Discovery Day. We hope to have as many board members available during this fireside discussion of what it means to be a library board member. So if you can make it out to the library on Saturday, do drop by. It should be an interesting time. And one other thing, the Renfrew County ATV Club is hosting their annual general meeting at the Petawawa Civic Center this Saturday morning. So you could go to the AGM and then go to Library Discovery Day. So you can get a lot done on your Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with the chaired an EDI meeting on May 22nd. I attended a library board meeting May 27th. I also attended the accessibility flag raising, which was very lovely, on May 26th. June 1st, we had a small pride flag raising ceremony, and Deputy Mayor was also there. And today I was also at the grand opening of Law and Order's Burger's new location. It's gorgeous. And May 30th, I was also at Karen Cornier's goodbye luncheon and had the opportunity to wish her many happy returns during her retirement. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to bring everybody up to date in terms of what I was busy attending on the 22nd of May. I had the pleasure of riding the ATV trails with the club. Excellent driver. I got to be a passenger and looked around all the way through the trip, so it was great. As well that day, there was the Swift landings up at CNL that were happening, where the chimney swifts land on that night. Set for 8 o'clock. There was a really big windstorm. Swifts didn't come. It was the next night. So from there. So the 23rd of May, we had a PAC meeting, so an accessible advisory committee meeting, helping us to prepare for the flag raising on the weekend, look at some of our other initiatives that were in place. On the 24th of May, went through a presentation with a company called Government Frameworks, a lady we had met at the OSIM conference. It was an opportunity to have them review our website with regards to accessibility and getting to the forms and the information that was there. And then she gave us a half-hour presentation coming back with what her observations were after she reviewed the website. So it was very informative. Certainly we'll be able to share that at the PAC meeting at our next one, while we have discussions on that. 26th of May was the PAC flag raising ceremony. So thank you to everyone who came out. A lot of good work went into it. The committee was very active. It was a small group for our first flag raising, but very engaged, the people that were there. So it was a lovely afternoon. And then on the 30th of May as well, I was here for Karen's retirement dinner, which was very nice. And then on the 31st of May, I attended the Teeny Tiny Summit Series, Legacy of Hope, that was hosted up in Deep River, where they brought in Peter Kenyon from Australia. And he focuses on economic development within smaller communities and strategies for community development. It was very interesting, good anecdotal stories of things that went on. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May 29th, I attended the Petawawa Sports and Entertainment Hall of Fame meeting. We are all ready to go for Thursday, June 13th for inductees. Should be a great evening. Tickets can be bought at the door or in advance for $5, and everyone is invited for sure. Friday, May 31st, I attended and chaired a Festival Hall meeting. Points of action were financial update, follow-up discussion to our celebration event, new business opportunities, new rental price charges as we enter the second half of the year, changes in charges to the school board update, and a manager information session. And today I did not make the grand opening as such for the relocation of Law and Order, but I did stop in to see Jamie before I came to our council meeting, and I wish him and his whole team all the success at the new location. Thank you.
Thank you. And my report, I guess we'll go back to May 22nd. I also partook in the ATV club ride, which was basically showcasing the trail systems that we have available to us here in Petawawa and how we can better promote Petawawa as a destination for ATVers from around the province. I don't know if I was an excellent driver, but I was Councillor Donovan's driver. We didn't roll over and we didn't get wet, so. But it was great to see all the trails that you don't even realize are out there, and they're not that far away from where we live. So it was a real eye opener to see what we have available to us. Thanks to Deputy Mayor Sabrin for representing me twice, once at the Child Care Summit and once at the Accessibility Flag Raise. Thanks for doing that. On May 22nd, there was a huge MESA symposium put on by Renfrew County. MESA is their new mental health strategy plan in terms of combating mental health issues, drug addiction, homelessness, and all the other vulnerable problems we have here in Renfrew County. There were 450 people there. OPP, all the various hospitals and different health teams, and even had 2 guest speakers come to give personal firsthand accounts of their trials and tribulations, I'll say, in terms of addictions, mental health, and homelessness problems. And it was a real eye-opener to hear from those 2 individuals and what they had gone through. But it was great to see that many members of the community coming together to help try and solve the situation that we have going on right now. So lots of good ideas and lots of great solutions coming forward from that. So expect to hear a lot more coming from all the municipalities and the county as well. May 29th was County Council. I'll get to that in a minute, but as Councillor Root said, we had a Petawawa Sports and Entertainment Hall of Fame, our final meeting before the actual 2024 induction ceremony. We have 4 new inductees going into the Hall of Fame. I hope I remember them. Lloyd Mones was a former NHL player. Ben Roots is a world-renowned fiddle player. Mike Trauner is a wounded veteran who is now an international para-athlete, and the Petawawa Indians Baseball Club will all be inducted on Thursday, June 13th, 5 o'clock at the Petawawa Civic Center. As Councillor Root said, tickets are only $5 and you get food. The bar will be open. There'll be some live entertainment and it'll be a fun night for all. On the 30th, I was here for Karen Cronier's retirement, our Director of Planning and Development. After 18 years with the town of Petawawa, we wished her the best. It was a good send-off, and I hope she enjoys her much-deserved retirement. June 1st was the Pride Flag ceremony. Thanks to Councillor Coutu and Deputy Mayor Sabern for organizing that. It was a great little event, and it was great to have the base commander there as well to help us send our flag up. And we'll be there with him on the 14th when they have their Pride event up on the Garrison, which is also the day of our Pride event, the 14th at 5 p.m. at the Kim Hut. And today as well, I was at the Law and Order grand opening. It was great to see Jamie Law. We were worried he was leaving town, but he was just moving locations. So it was great to see that he now has a new location with some seating capacity. So if you want to dine in, it's available to you now. And I did go back there, and it was my turn to cook tonight, so I went and got burgers, and they're always delicious there. So it was great to see. The county meeting this month, just some highlights from the county council. Derek Nyber was there. He's the CAO of the Forest Products Association of Canada, and he gave a great presentation on how Renfrew County can increase its economic development of the forestry industry. As we know, there are a lot of mills closing down nearby, and it's getting harder and harder for logging companies in our area to find buyers for their product. One of the things an initiative he's kind of looking at is bio waste heat. So taking bio wood waste and creating an actual heat plant that would burn that to provide a heat source. They talked about the Silver Chain Challenge. This is between Renfrew County and Lanark County. It's an ongoing competition every year, and it opened yesterday, I think. You're supposed to take pictures of yourself biking, walking, or hiking and put it on the Silver Chain Challenge website. Go to the Renfrew County website. Whatever county puts the most pictures on wins the challenge. I'm not sure which prize is, but let's go out there and get Lanark. We supported a Hastings County resolution that the province of Ontario should provide, and the federal government provide, sustainable infrastructure funding to small municipalities. And that came from the provincial government's decision to assume the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner Expressway in Toronto from the city of Toronto and make them provincial roads. And the other municipalities in the province are wondering if the province would like to take over some of our roads and help us out too, because we're struggling just like Toronto is. So basically we're supporting their resolution that the province and the Fed should help smaller municipalities as well with our infrastructure. The community living of Upper Ottawa Valley provided the Renfrew County with a $200,000 grant. And what this means is that the Community Living Association, will now have two housing units within one of the new county affordable housing builds for the next 15 years to provide to two of their, well, it could be more. I think they may be 2-bedroom apartments, but to community living, I don't want to call them customers, but clients, community living clients, yeah. So it was a great initiative, I thought, that community living and Renfrew County are working together, because we know that sometimes clients of community living have struggles finding affordable housing. So it's a great initiative. The county hired a consultant called OrgCode to provide a 10-year strategic plan for housing and homelessness. So that should be out later this year. It'll be interesting to see what that consulting company comes out with in terms of solutions for Renfrew County for homelessness. 140,000 was set aside for the completion of the new ambulance base in Eganville. So once that funding was voted through, and it was, they can now bring that project to completion, and there'll be a new ambulance station in Renfrew County to provide services in the farther reaches of the county. The county did pass, Petawawa asked the county for some allowances on the county roads in terms of ATVs. So any of the county roads that were affected by the ATV policy that we just passed, we asked that we could cut across the county roads like Laurentian, the Boulevard, and the county passed that resolution. So now the county roads are passable as well as the roads that we have in our bylaw. $9 million was passed on this month for infrastructure projects in the county, roads, bridges, culverts. And that's not the last of all the money that's going to be spent in the county on roads and bridges. And then finally, I'd just like to say that on June 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th, it's Civic Center days. They're coming up. That's in a couple of weeks. We already mentioned the Hall of Fame is the kickoff event on the Thursday. Friday, I know there's roller skating and a pride event. Saturday, there is the Algonquin Trail Run. If you're interested in a 3.2K Munchkin run for the kids, it only costs $10. And you get a free Doghouse cream soda or root beer. And 5K and 10K runs for the adults along the Algonquin Trail. It's an out and back, up towards the base and back. And the adult runners get a real Doghouse beer, not a root beer. And on that evening, there's a craft beer festival, which is free. And I know there's lots of other great events, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Check out the town website for all of the exciting happenings in Civic Center days. It is, of course, the 50th anniversary of that building, the Petawawa Civic Center. So we'll have a small celebration with more news to come on a bigger 50th anniversary celebration for the building. And that's it. Next, we have a closed meeting. So I need a motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2, paragraph B, and paragraph D of the Municipal Act 2001 S.O.2001 C.25 as amended, to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations or employee negotiation. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.